Pace is dropped on a new round of soccer down here. Welcome back to the office, or at least for me anyway. Thanks for hanging out with us here on a Tuesday. It's Tuesday Thoughts. And we've got some thoughts in Major League Soccer. We've got thoughts in World Soccer. Rosters are starting to get announced for World Cup and everybody getting ready for Qatar and things like that. As I crack open I have to be careful with this, though. Hang on. All right. Yeah, okay. Because, I mean, with three computers around, you don't want to open something too quickly that's been in a car for the last however long and sit there and shake around and all that kind of stuff. But we will get into your Tuesday thoughts, whatever's on your mind. Thiago Almada is close. He's kind of on standby, it appears, for the Argentine roster for Qatar, which is very, very cool. And like I said, we'll get into juice boxes. We'll get into what to watch today. We'll get into all that other stuff as we go. Before we get into the opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffee.co.com. We'll put the QR code over my face coming up in short order. Big shout out yesterday to everybody that made Sunday and Monday the tremendous 2 days that it was down in Statesboro. Everybody at the Tormenta office, Darren Van Tassel, Nitra Van Tassel, the co-owners, and Edwin Pintor in communications, Aaron Cranford, Ian Cameron, everybody on the roster that put up with me for a championship. Thank you guys for a tremendous Sunday and Monday. And as we morning, David, and let me pull back the curtain a little bit. So yesterday we did the show, and thanks to Marion Crowder, who was on the sidelines for ESPN2 for that broadcast, and for her crossover event, and for Darren coming on. If you could tell, Darren had been up for quite some time. And the reason I cut that interview short was because he was hurting, and it's on the network in both the long form for the entire show and then that particular segment. You could tell he was hurting because, I mean, you know, when you win a championship, you're second in the summer, and you complete the first ever double in the history of A, the USL, and B, probably North American soccer in short order. I mean, this was two events in about 4 months. Darren and everybody, it was a late night for everybody in Statesboro, and you could tell that Darren had been up late. He was hurting. So after the show was over, I got kicked out of the hotel. And I guess this is opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Jared Smith has popped in, and I'll bring him in just a second. But I moved my base of operations for other things over to the clubhouse, which is kind of like the base of operations for Tormenta as they get everything built and everything. So I found 4 packets of my traditional medicinals throat coat tea, and I swear by that stuff. Gave it to Nitra to give to Darren, and as I was working middle of the afternoon, you see Darren go walking by, and he's pointing at this cup that's got the tea in it and everything. So hopefully everybody there at Tormenta got some rest, got to go to bed early and celebrate their championship. I'm bringing in Jared Smith right now, and so suffice to say, Jared, everybody in Statesboro that was attached to the Tormenta Magenta, they were, it was a crazy late night celebration, as it should be.
Have they recovered yet?
That's the question. That is the key question. So if anybody's in Statesboro that has seen them, let us know. That is the big question. But I mean, it's just the notion of a double in a couple of months' time to set North American history. Yes, Statesboro should be partying.
Yeah, they should be. I know we really didn't get to talk about it in the first hour yesterday. Yeah, they should be partying because, holy hell, what you did was something else. But man, the whole thing has been pretty whirlwind for them. You know, from inception, some fun moments, but not really productive moments in the first few years of existence, to, you know, this year really starting to impact the earth where they were hidden. You know, You have the run through U.S. Open Cup. You have some really fun games with Greenville. You're starting to build out more of a footprint in the land that is Irkville, basically.
Yes.
And then you see the women go hand Aurora, their first and only loss of the season.
Yep.
And then the men get in the playoffs and they just decide not to lose. It I can't imagine what it's been like for the hardcores down there to go through this whirlwind, because it's one of those magical times that you hang on to. You cherish every moment of it because it doesn't happen every year. Look, the Boston sports thing of the last generation, it's not supposed to happen that way. You're not supposed to be that happy as a sports fan all the time. And not to say that you shouldn't be happy, and it's not to frame that as a you should be miserable. But the parody of American sports especially makes it so damn hard to sustain like top of the mountain success. You can still have success. Like the Braves had unprecedented success. Well, won one title. Houston Astros have had sustained success for a while. They just picked up their second title. They've gotten slapped off the mountain more than they've gotten to the top of it. LAFC had success. They finally won their MLS Cup, and they did it in one of the most jarring and insane games we've ever seen. Like, success, you can have success and still not get to the top of the mountain. But,
well, and sidebar quickly, if you
yes.
haven't seen the Ramsey Sandoval split screen for his call of the goal, I would recommend
you should do that
on Twitter, because that's tremendous. And so please continue. Sorry, sidebar.
But I mean, that it's not to say that you shouldn't enjoy that you should be sad. But yeah, cherish those moments of success like this, because you don't know if you'll pull another double like that along with a cup run. And ultimately, it's a great year for USL League One, because one of the teams that loses in the semifinal here was Union. The Murder Owls didn't even make the final of USL League One playoffs, and it's not because they weren't good. They just got beat, and then you end up with a final between a Chattanooga team that's pretty young, a Tormenta team that's pretty young, and especially a Tormenta team that has been built from the inside out, through the academy, through the League Two team, building guys up and trying to do it that way, and then you add pieces from the outside to it to make it stronger, to reinforce it where you need it to, and to find those difference makers. And it's been really cool to see. So I hope they enjoy it. I hope they get more days like that. I hope they get more years like that. But hang on to those memories and cherish them, because the first time's probably going to be the most magical one for them because of everything that happened this year. I hope they are detoxing at an efficient rate in Statesboro, Georgia.
No doubt. And by the way, good morning, Sean. Good morning, Kefsey. And yes, today is election day. So go vote. And I'm just going to say it that way. Go vote, because if you don't, then you don't get to speak up. You get no credit for saying anything after the fact. So go vote and exercise your right as a citizen to go vote this morning.
Hey, John, did you realize that if Texas A&M doesn't win out against Auburn, UMass, and LSU, they don't get to go to a bowl game this year?
Yes, I did. Sorry, I had to do that.
He is 4 games off of Kevin Sumlin's pace.
Yeah. And for those of you that want to catch up with everything college football, you can go to the OSG Sports side of things and catch up with the College Football X on the OSG Sports app, available iOS and Android.
Like, he's going to have to beat an Auburn team that isn't good but plays hard under Caddy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then he has to beat UMass, and he's going to have to beat an LSU team that LSU might have to beat them to lock up the SEC West. This could get stupid.
Yeah,
real fast.
Yeah, there is no NIT for college football. If you don't get to 500, then there is no NIT after that. But 86 million reasons why he's chasing 500 right now.
Yeah, there is. The firm is looking for money in the couch cushions. They are selling. They are doing a stock buyback for whatever oil company they're part of, and they are looking for ways to change it. Viewership numbers rolled in for MLS Cup, by the way.
Yes, 1.487 million on Fox, 668,000 on Univision. Biggest combined total since 1997, number 2 total in league history. That's not suboptimal. Absolutely. That's a pretty solid
that
number.
Dog will in fact hunt.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good numbers. So let's knock these out real quick. Burn is the quality of I'll get to you in a minute, Emilio. Trust me, I'll get to you in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Is the quality level of the USL League One essentially the same as USL Championship? Looks like the top teams could easily beat a lot of the USLC teams. I don't know, because I don't know how their depth is, which is kind of the thing. A lot of times it separates like MLS and USL, because like, you'll have a couple teams in USL that have good players, like really good players. But a lot of times it's that very top level guy that's the difference. And then it's the depth to be able to sustain it through the whole season that proves to be the difference. So,
well, and remember, Tormenta in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup knocked off both Charleston Battery and Birmingham Legion.
Charleston Battery is okay. They did.
Here we go. Two separate levels of franchise. I know.
I ain't speaking ill of Tormenta, but Charleston was a train wreck in 2022.
They were.
Connor Casey decided he wanted to play a hardcore pressing style, and he did not have the horses to do it. And Charleston this year is a great example for anyone who says, let's just switch it up and start playing a press tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
You can't. If you don't have the horses to do it and you don't have the buy-in, it doesn't work.
Nope.
Because Charleston was everyone's get right game this year.
Yeah.
Like that was, they were, you're having a bad day, go get you a dose of Charleston and put your feet up for a couple hours. You'll feel better.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure Jackson Conway racked up 6 goals this year against Charleston, 5 or 6 goals.
I think that's right. Yeah.
5 or 6 goals against Charleston in 2 games.
Yep.
They were everyone's get right game.
Yeah.
Charleston is a unique one. Birmingham was a weird team. We talked to Kaylor Hodges a couple times this year about them. Birmingham came on really strong in the second half of the year. They kind of slumbered through the first half, I think.
Yeah.
But they came on strong in the second half of the year, made it into the playoffs, and made a little bit of noise. And I know they were disappointed not to make more noise based on talent alone, but yeah, Birmingham was a bigger win. That was more of an eye-opening win for me for Tormenta. And I know that Birmingham was kind of in a slog at that point, but it's still a good win.
Yeah.
And then you should have beat. I mean, you played that game. If you play that game against Miami 10 times, I don't know how many times you win it, but you might score more than 1 goal because Drake Callender absolutely basically blacked out for 45 minutes and kept Miami in that game.
Yeah.
Until, Ariel Lassiter could wake up and start scoring goals, which is what you need sometimes. Like, and it's not a slight against, Callender or the rest of Miami. Like sometimes you need your keeper to wake you up.
Yeah.
And to kind of, that's why you want a keeper like that who can kind of hold the fort down while you figure out what you're doing with your life. And then they did. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know how the jump would go from USL League One to Championship. Yeah, they're probably better some Championship teams. Probably get knocked off the field by maybe a couple others. I don't know. I'd be interested to see if you want to. I don't have the gong with me, but if you want to ever discuss Pro Rel, that's the level at which you discuss it.
Gong
is in USL, where like a team gets pushed up or down through League One or Championship, that sort of thing. That would
Yeah.
be, I think that would be the place you're looking at it.
Yeah, you're right, Bern. It was played at Birmingham Southern, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and Birmingham might have been a little too big for their britches, but yeah, and they waited.
Birmingham was weird this year, man. They were good, but like they had talent, but they were weird. There were a lot of times where it's like they just didn't seem like. And I would love to. Well, I'll have to catch up with Kaylor about this, because he watched them very, very closely, and he would know better than I would. It felt like there were times where they just weren't playing up to what they could be.
Yeah, and I think that Tormenta game was another example of that. I think it took them a while to realize, oh crap, we're actually in a game with these folks. And by
Yeah.
then it was too late, and then they're having to try to chase and chase and chase. And Enzo Martinez is trying to sit there and figure out all the hops and quirks of the field over at Birmingham Southern.
Well, the
And
problem for Charlotte Tormenta is traditionally, if they got a lead this year, that was they kind of had they had a big boa constrictor energy about it. Once they got a lead, they just kind of wrapped it up because they had one of the best center back pairings in USL, not just USL League One, but in USL.
yes,
They had one of the best center back pairings in USL that basically shared a hive mind. That once they got a lead, that's why it's a big deal when Chattanooga scored in the USL League One final off that set piece. And of course, it was off a set piece because it probably wasn't going to be open play the way that Tormenta's defensive lines have been working. They once they got a lead, they generally shut it down.
yeah. When you've got Dengler and Phelps back there, it's just locked down the middle of the field, and it was it was for me the way that Tormenta Stadium was laid out for the media. They put us in the end zone. They put us in, as you're watching the match, they put us in a holding pen behind the left goal. So literally we would be like to the right of the keepers in like the left-hand corner as you're watching the match. So we were right there, and we could see literally how you could see Dingler and Phelps sit there and just kind of work their way through everything. And when you've got those two center backs that are just they are lockdown corners, brother. I mean, they do not let anything pass them. And Ian Cameron really had a fantastic pair with those two.
He did, and I hated seeing TJ go off, out of goal in late in the second half for Tormenta. He'd been that guy, and man, I don't know if anybody else has been in a situation like where you have to like come out of a game you're playing. Just you could see it like when he was going down injured, where he's pounding the ground. That it's that moment of like, I know I can't do this anymore.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be able to finish, and I'm going to be very mad about it for a while. But,
yeah. Well,
you know what?
but the story that we talked about yesterday was Pablo Jara.
Mm-hmm.
And Pablo's another one of those guys that's been there for 5 years.
Yeah.
And by the way, USL League One show will come up later this afternoon. In-depth interviews with Jamil Roberts, Keziah Sterling, Ian Cameron, and Pablo Jara. And to have that moment late in the match where there's a late substitution and the captain's armband is put on Pablo Jara, that meant volumes, I think, to the depth of the storyline with, Pablo, who had been starter forever. TJ comes in. TJ has the starting gig. Then Pablo understands his role. He's not given up. He's still a part of the team. He's still getting ready. And then when TJ tries to go for that save on the goal and ends up plowing into the post with his ribs, like the ribs in the kidney area, that was, you were wondering if TJ was going to be able to continue. And there was just that moment, Jarrett, where you said he wasn't going to, and he couldn't do it anymore. But you had Pablo Jara come in and lock it down for the final 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, and then right after he comes in, you get a goal to lock things down. It's a good counter, works way out to the right. Then you get the goal that basically sets the stadium on fire. It was a perfect time for it. Yeah, but yeah, I'd be interested to see what happens if they played. If you did take a Tormenta and push them up to USL Championship, how it would play. I think they would have to spend more money. They would want to tweak the roster in areas, and if nothing else, add more quality depth along all lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and yeah, to Emilio's point, Yeah. So here's the thing, man. Because I always heard this growing up, and I hated it, and I hate it to this day. And my retort to this is always, as someone who was a child during all of this, at the front end of everyone gets a medal, I hated it, because I played in leagues where everyone got a trophy, even if they didn't win a championship. They won a trophy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Kids are smart. They're smart enough to know that, uh, we know who wins and who loses. It's pretty clear when you're sitting on a bench and watching someone else celebrate. I don't want a trophy. I don't want a medal. I don't want anything for second place.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be mad.
Yeah.
I want to be sad. Like, for my money, that entire generational thing of everyone gets a medal. I didn't want a medal. None of us did. The parents decided that we were going to get a medal. It was back in it was edge of it was the trailing edge of baby boomers and front end Gen Xers who decided that, I guess, everybody's going to get a medal. Now, if your kids said we want medals, cool, fine, whatever. But I know in our case, it was the parents who decided everybody's going to get medals, everyone's going to get trophies no matter what, just for finishing out the season. No, I despised that. I still do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I just always hated it, and I especially always hated being lumped in with it because in my experience, it was never the kids who wanted the trophies and the medals. Like you took one because that was just what it was, but like winning one, like for not winning one, yeah, that always sucked.
Yeah. I mean,
And because I was on plenty of teams that were really good growing up, and I was on plenty of teams that were just god awful
mhm.
growing up.
Yeah.
I have always despised it, and I've always despised being lumped in with it because it wasn't my idea. It was thrust upon me, and then it became a running joke that it was, it was us who wanted it in the first place. No, no, no. Trust me, I don't want anything to do with it.
Oh, I mean, I was growing up. I was like Tanner Boyle in the original Bad News Bears when they get the runner up trophy that's like what 6 inches tall, and they hand it to Boilermaker, and Tanner grabs the trophy after the token cheer from the Yankees. Bez, yay! And Tanner takes the trophy and he throws it at the Yankees' feet. Hey, Yankees, you can take that trophy, stick it. That's where I was. I had zero desire to have any kind of second place trophy. Um, even when growing up, I was one of two kids in Little League to hit a home run, like over the fence home run. And the home run king was this dude who was about 250 pounds. Literally, he's like Engelberg. And he just, he hit like 7 home runs in Little League. He just crushing it all over the place. And I had 2, and I was second in the league in home runs, and I got the trophy that big, and I was like, great, thanks, fantastic. David missed what started the conversation. He was wondering if someone called you soft.
Oh no, no, David. This it's from Emilio's question. Of maybe the everybody wins a medal concept is flawed as a generation reaches the real world.
Yes.
That's where it comes from. Yeah, no, it was there's nothing like that. It was that whole like concept of everybody getting trophies and medals, and it always bugged me as a kid because like we knew when we won it, when we won championships, yeah, hell yeah, hand
Mm-hmm.
it over.
Yep.
But I remember multiple times finishing second or third, and we didn't like, man, we just wanted to be sad or mad. And then a lot of times as a kid, you get over, your brain just switches to something else. You're thinking like, okay, well, let's just get to the post party where we all go to a pool and have barbecue
Mm-hmm.
or cookout food or whatnot, and
Go to Showbiz Pizza
be.
Place.
Well, we always did. In Powder Springs, in downtown Powder Springs, there was a Dairy Queen that we always would go to,
Yeah.
because I have this core memory of throwing a complete game as like a 10-year-old, which is healthy for a 10-year-old arm. Let him throw
Yes.
7 innings.
Yes.
And my coach bought me ice cream, and I remember like being like, "Oh, I'm just going to start throwing complete games all the time," to which he did not let me because
No.
he was very smart and actually did care about the well-being of our like physical development.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's yeah, no, it wasn't anything like that, man. It was just I hate I'm not a fan of the everybody gets a trophy thing personally.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at with it. So
Sean Vergara is
yeah,
in this morning, and he wants to know when we're getting Atlanta United roster news.
whenever we get it, man, I haven't heard anything. They still have a little time before they have to make any final announcements, that sort of thing. I
Mhm.
don't know if that means they're working stuff out or if they're just like, well, or it might, and because it might be the kind of thing of if y'all have ever been in school and they're like, hey, that report is due Friday and it's Tuesday, and you're like,
Yeah,
I'm done with it. I just, it's not gonna. I got other things to do, so I'm just not gonna bother with it.
I'm not going to hand it in until I need to.
Yeah, basically, like I'll hand it in when you ask me to.
Yeah,
I wonder if it's gonna. I wonder if it's gonna be something like that. I don't know for sure.
yeah. So here's your recap of the
Good
timeline.
morning, Bam.
Morning, Bam. Trade window opened yesterday at noon, and we did have some tinkering with folks and rosters and things like that. We'll probably get into that in hour number 2. Trade window closes tomorrow at noon Eastern. So we have another, as we're talking, 26 and a half hours of the trade window. Then the blackout period begins at noon. The expansion protection list is announced Thursday. The expansion draft itself is Friday. And then you've got next Monday. Next Monday at noon is probably your first marker. Deadline to submit bona fide offers and exercising of options. That's noon, Monday the 14th. That's probably your first marker when it comes to a lot of folks here in Major League Soccer. Free agency begins next Wednesday the 16th at 1 o'clock. Will there be a free agent frenzy next Wednesday? That'll be the big question. Are people going to be knocking on people's doors at 12:59 at the end of lunch hour next Wednesday the 16th, like we have in the National Football League? You've got reentry and end-of-year waivers Thursday afternoon, the 17th. Reentry process stage 1 is at 1 o'clock. Waivers is at 5. Then that thing called the World Cup kicks off on Sunday.
Never heard of it.
Nope. No, the 22nd. The reentry process stage 2 is at 1 o'clock. Then some game on Black Friday, USA and England, and there's supposed to be some big party that everybody's supposed to go to.
Yeah, in theory.
In theory, College Showcase December 8th through 12. Schedule releases mid-December. Watch party for the final at Coca-Cola Roxy at the Batteries on the 18th. Super Draft Wednesday, December 21st. Early January preseason workouts, and there you go. So basically, there is no offseason. That's your answers.
I'm sorry, I'm still like on the back end of death. Emilio congratulating Bam for ugly soccer not prevailing.
Yes, and I think that is a universal thought. That
I don't even know if it is for that, other than like it's so easy for people to like fire shots across the bow at the existence of Philadelphia sports, or we're just like people like watching Philadelphia be sad in sports.
Yep, the only city, Rich, plug your ears, that lost 2 championships in a day.
Hey, but it's the only city that's lost 2 championships in a day, and then everyone showed up to watch a man eat an entire rotisserie chicken the next day.
That is true. And so we'll get into all those kinds of things. The roster moves yesterday, and like I said, it was kind of tweakish kind of stuff. St. Louis picked up Jared Stroud from Austin, so Jared is moving from one expansion experience to another, and so he posted on social media that he's looking forward to seeing what's going on with his new group. Austin FC announced yesterday they declined contract options on 5 players, including number 1 expansion draft selection Danny Houston and Felipe Martins.
Danny Houston never really
No.
I feel like Danny Houston never really stuck the way I personally had higher expectations for Danny Houston. I don't know how others felt. I had higher expectations when they pulled him from San Jose.
From your San Jose Earthquakes, sir.
Yes. I had higher expectations for them. But didn't really stick the same way, that they got DP production out of other guys. And Felipe Martins is an interesting one because he is getting a little long in the tooth. Hey, I want to bring him in here, cool, because I've already had I already have my heel team 6 philosophy for this
Yes,
season that involves bringing in
hashtag heel team 6. Make it happen.
Involves like overhauling Atlanta's roster with Felipe Martins, go getting Victor Wanyama.
Mm-hmm.
If Richie Larea is determined to still play in MLS, bring him in here too.
As long as he doesn't fall down.
No, that's what I want. Tell him to come in here and do the exact same thing he has been doing his whole career. I'm totally okay with that. Bring in all of those guys, and just get weird, just get stupid.
Mm-hmm.
That's get like the biggest heel team of, basically the scene from Blazing Saddles where he's listing off all of the people he wants to go destroy Rock Ridge. That's what I want in soccer terms. Just make your midfield basically. Just make the whole midfield out of barbed wire.
Nothing would be wrong with that. Let's see. What was the other one that I wanted to bring in quickly? David quickly says that the watch party got moved. A little bump, still a good spot. We'll update you on that. Sam, welcome back. Haven't been on in a while. Update on Jason. Is he recovered from COVID? And go Tigers. We'll let you address the go Tigers part first, Jared.
Well, first we'll address Jason for Sam's sake because he hasn't been on in a while. Jason's still recovering slowly. Just one of those things that whenever he does something, it just takes him forever to it's almost like just doing his job is like running a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for him to work up that energy. Hopefully he'll be able to start doing more. Now that the college season is pretty much over, hopefully he'll be able to start doing more and kind of stretch out, his endurance and try and build back up. But Jason's still around. He's still alive. He just can't really function doing the show.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. It's
literally it's you take, and I mean I think this is month.
It's just kicked. It has wholly and completely whipped his ass.
Yeah.
So,
and it's that's what you're looking at with Jason and Jess. By the way, Atlanta Soccer tonight on 92.9 The Game during the World Cup, and it's going to be late night programming. So after their after the Hawks or after the last evening shift is over, then Jason and Jess will pop on 92.9 The Game, and they will discuss everything going on in the World Cup. We will as well. Obviously, that's what our mornings will be like. It might be kind of staring at things over our shoulders, somewhat in live time, and kind of breaking things down from the day before and going into the day that is. Joe. So, Jarrett, what you're looking for? I found the line that you were chasing after. You want rustlers, cutthroats, murderers, bounty hunters, desperados, mugs, pugs, thugs, nitwits, halfwits, dimwits, vipers, snipers, conmen, Indian agents, Mexican bandits, muggers, buggerers, bushwhackers, hornswogglers, horse thieves, bulldykes, train robbers, bank robbers, ass kickers, ish kickers, and Methodists.
Basically.
That's what you're hunting
for. A movie that could never be made in 2022.
No.
Never get made. Yes, and Methodist. Capsy, because because it also the movie A River Runs Through It.
Yes.
About two kids growing up as the children of a Presbyterian preacher, including Brad Pitt when he was young.
Yes.
Good film. The other side of Sam's thing is yes, go Tigers. Because we are now through the looking glass, and Brian Kelly is in the driver's seat to win the SEC West, and I will inevitably be going to find an SEC championship game ticket, knowing that I will be basically watching the execution of LSU against UGA when it happens. I don't care. I'll just be amused. I don't have to see them win to be amused at that point, because this entire year was a lost year to me. So if something funny happens, I'm just going to be even more amused. That's okay with me. Because the whole thing boiled down to the way they have solved the last two games is somebody in the defensive room decided, what if we just made the whole defense out of Harold Perkins? And Harold Perkins, like, I don't know if you saw the stats, John, this week of college football. Harold Perkins had 7 pressures the
Wow.
game. Every time he got on the field, he just tormented the hell out of Bryce Young, who's probably going to be the first quarterback off the board. Like, on Bryce Young's like amazing play where he rolled out to his right and found a wide receiver wide open for the touchdown at the end of the game. If you watch that play on the left side of Alabama's line, Harold Perkins came free. The left tackle, I mean, he wrapped him up and just hung on for dear life. And it wasn't called, which, I mean, yeah, there's holding on every play.
Yes.
To which I think everybody was like, yeah, I'd hold him too.
Uh-huh.
He's just coming for you every time. See,
Yep.
go Tigers. That was very. I was very easy. I was very highly amused by the entire process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bam is in celebrating his LAFC-ness, and I hope that this is. Oh yeah, we've got to talk about this because we didn't mention this yesterday. Bam's hoping that the LAFC releases a DVD of the game where you can choose which commentary team to listen to: English, Spanish, radio feeds, or just the crowd. Did you hear about ESPN LA's Heidi moment? Did you hear about this? So, and the audio is out there.
Well, Bam can't actually answer us in real time, so we're just gonna have to tell him that.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So, for those of you that were not listening to Dave Denholm, who I imagine was his normal decaffeinated self on the air for the entire broadcast, hashtag sarcasm font. Dave runs at about 130 miles an hour for his entire broadcast, and the audio is out there. Timothy Burke, go to @BubbaProg on Twitter. It exists. ESPN LA, toward the tail end of the game, dumped out. You hear Denholm in the middle of a call, and then you hear silence, and then you hear ESPN Network Radio's pregame coverage of the World Series take over. I don't know how long the gap was before they dialed it back to Denholm, unless it was just locked in there the whole time, which would be catastrophically bad. But they had a Heidi moment late in MLS Cup where play-by-play is going of this match. It dumps out, goes to silence, and goes to Network World Series coverage. That, to me, would be one of my worst nightmares ever in broadcasting.
Yeah, somebody's going to be on top of that. I don't think it hit everybody. I think it hit a small subset of people who might have been like listening in the right perfect storm situation.
Yeah.
You still don't want it to happen ever.
No.
Man.
Oh, no. Yeah, that was earth-shatteringly horrendous when it went down. But yeah, to your point, also, Bam, we got into this yesterday about Max Crepeau, and Bart Keeler was in on this discussion. Crepeau was probably your 2/3, depending on Dane St. Clair. Borjan was your number 1 for Canadian national team. Then probably Dane St. Clair is your number 2. Crepeau's your number 3. But Crepeau, obviously, he had surgery, and he's going to be out for, I think, 4 to 6 months. I think is the number that is out there. But yeah, it was just, and when you have a TV moment like that, yeah, Bam, it would make me break my radio too. But you've got a moment like that for Crepeau, and once again, shout out to, and this is TV production down here, to the notion of not going back and showing a replay. Yes, people posted it, but Fox was like, nope, not going to show it. Not going to show a replay. And that was
everybody put it on social media anyway. But yeah, it was the right decision not to show it because it's an ugly leg break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, so that was not something that folks needed to see in any kind of a replay. But yeah, Crepeau brought in for $1 million of AM and has been their starting keeper. And now, McCarthy looks like he's going to be getting his shot to start the season next year. And when you've got a keeper like McCarthy, the PK specialist, yeah, why not? Rock and roll.
But you just hope he does the rest of it as well as Crepeau does. I mean, it was one of the pieces that was kind of missing for, and not even really kind of for LAFC, because I mean, it's a team that
you had Vermeer.
You had Vermeer, you had Tyler Miller at points, which is fine. Like, but man, like Tyler Miller wasn't consistent.
No. Oh, you're being summoned?
No. But yeah, Tyler Miller wasn't consistent. It was, I mean, he had some really bad games. And then, yeah, Vermeer wasn't great. And they kind of needed that guy to get them over the hump.
Yeah.
And in this instance, if that is go out and get Maxime Crepeau and pay $1 million to Vancouver to do it, that's what you do.
Yeah.
But you needed that keeper to get you over the hump, and they did. And good on them for hunting it down and getting it. And you got a guy who's proven within the league. So, I mean, on that front, well done, LAFC. Clap, clap, clap.
Yes,
clap,
exactly. And I know that this has nothing to do with anything soccer, but officials have finally announced the winning numbers for the record $2.04 billion Powerball lottery jackpot after Monday night's drawing was delayed when one of the 48 participating lotteries needed more time to complete the necessary protocols. So your numbers, 10, 33, 41, 47, 56, and the Powerball was 10. So if you've got those, let us know. So we'll that's Powerball down here, $2.04 billion. The discussion now between Burned and Bam is Burned. Congrats to Steve Cherundolo, a.k.a. the best coach in Major League Soccer. Bam was wondering why Cherundolo didn't get Coach of the Year. I would posit Wilfred Nancy.
Because those are always, like, there's always narrative-driven discussions. And as we've seen, man, we've already seen with the way the polls work, where they're splitting it between the players, the media, and executives. We've already seen that there is a stark difference between what the players and the executives see and what the media sees. Go see Amada, Thiago. Because that one was a situation where Almada really, like, on the first two of those categories, should have run away with, the best newcomer of the year award. And the only reason it was close is because the media vote was almost comically overwhelmed against him. So that's just, I mean, but so there is a certain amount of narrative drive with those kind of awards. And there is a certain kind of narrative drive with the fact that, like, Jim Curtin probably could have, would have, should have won it last year, so he wins it this year. Aside from him, I would have also accepted. We talked about Wilfred Nancy. I would have also accepted down ballot votes for Neville in Miami with what he was able to do this year. Yeah. Like, I think there were just more guys on the ticket. Like the media narrative in Australia to sack Ange and put in Graham Arnold. You cannot have him back, though, for now. I do not want Celtic to let him go until he decides to inevitably take a bigger job, either on the continent or in England. Because at some point they're going to come for him, and that's fine. Just let me enjoy this while I can, while I watch Giovanni von Bronckhorst completely drive Rangers into a ditch. Because that's happening too.
Yes, it is. Let's see. Yeah, I like the media narrative in Australia to sack Ange and put in Graham Arnold. And Bam letting us know that Kevin Muscat will be the next Australia coach.
I'd love to get Bam's opinion, because I think I saw Bam's comments about, like, it's the old boys club in terms of the selection for Australia's national team. So for the Bam, if you ever get a chance, you can drop it on the Discord if you want to, or drop it here. I'd love to get your kind of explanation as to like why, because like yeah, it's because it's easy enough to tell us like, hey, this is like an old boys club, and it's really frustrating as a fan. Like, what should we be looking for in that where we're like, okay, that's why it is that like that's why the Australia fans are frustrated, that sort of thing.
Yes. Let's see. Also, Wiley said that he still thinks Elliott should have gotten the second yellow, but he guesses ball don't lie.
Hey, BDL, buddy. The ball is generally a very truthful orb.
Mm-hmm. In theory.
So that's always nice.
Yes. Burn. Yes, in theory. But Burn. Jim Curtin's a good coach, but how good was he without Ernst Tanner? Not very good, to answer my own question. Thorrington is good too, but Tanner does more with less. Cherundolo brought structure to LAFC, which is what they needed. They had the raw talent already.
Yeah, it's and sometimes, man, I think it's finding the right guy to just kind of like finding the right person to navigate the railgun that is a team. So like LAFC is pretty much a giant railgun anyway, but you still want to have the right person who can point that railgun in the right direction for it to be most efficient. And that's what Cherundolo was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Bob Bradley was going to be that guy anymore.
No, because Bob wanted to do things his way.
Yeah, we've talked about Bob, man. Like Bob is still has this little energy about him that is just exhausting. Of like, there's parts of me that are convinced Bob will never get over the Swansea thing.
No,
he will never let it go, and it is going to impact him for the rest of his career as a coach. Like, he is just not going to stop. This whole like me versus the world thing. That's just who he is going to be. And it sucks because I think Bob has, Bob, was heading up a pretty damn good team in LA. I don't love what he did this season in Toronto, mostly because we discussed Bob should consider Bob should have considered defensive players and not just the best Italian talent he could find. That part was fun. When it worked, it was damn hilarious to watch. But
let's throw money at the problem.
But it didn't really fix the problem, like all of the problems that existed already.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what Bob does in year 2 up there in Toronto. Yes. And I still feel like this whole thing is kind of building to Bob running Toronto, and they're going to let him run it. And then whenever Michael's done, Michael's going to join his staff and start his basic apprenticeship to be the next Bob Bradley, which could be cool. I think Michael Bradley's an incredibly smart player. If he can translate it to coaching, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Man, because there is a timeline in the future of like Michael Bradley coached the U.S. national team and U.S. soccer Twitter just absolutely collapsing in on itself like a dying star.
Mm-hmm. Yes, no doubt. Let's see. How much time do you have left?
Like 2 minutes, but go ahead.
Oh, no, it's just no. Yeah, so Bam has said that he will go to Discord when it's not 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair way to look at it. Yeah, and so to Burns' point, because what is Jim Curtin's future? Because we talked about we had a running joke for a year plus on this show that is Jim Curtin, future Celtic manager, and where does Jim Curtin go? Like, does he get pushes from the media for being the next guy for the U.S. national team? A bunch of us are already on the boat, and I am of the opinion that I don't want somebody running a national team for multiple cycles. It should be an oil change.
Yeah.
4 years, cool. Let's change it out. Let's get a fresh voice in there. Let's get fresh ideas in there. That sort of thing. Make the changes as you need to make the changes for the national team.
Yep.
I'm all for that. Is Jim Curtin a part of that conversation next time? I don't know. Does he decide to go to Europe to try his hand? Maybe. How does Philadelphia fill that void? That's where I am very interested in finding out.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is the hook and the key in all of this. So we will continue to dig into that and talk about them stories as we go. But you get to go back to the real world, yes?
Yes, I do.
Darn. Well, we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, that sounds good.
All right, that's Jarrett. Jarrett's here for first hours when he can. Oh, by the way, I forgot to thank the League One, by the way, all the way over here. Get to add that to the stacks. The championship scarf right there. Thanks to USL League One for that. Very, very cool. Jim Curtin's a good coach, but, and Byrne, I mean, we can probably get into this discussion. It probably will be a continual talking point, but I'm not a fan of how he plays and how he has his teams play. I do not appreciate the overt CONCACAF-iness of his players. I do not. I'm still waiting for officials to get on to Philadelphia for their overt physicality from the absolute beginning. I would like for officials in Major League Soccer to continue to look at what we see from Philadelphia and give cards early. Because we all know that Philly's going to find that line, and then it's going to be different dudes that find that line. And when you have, frankly, an immature moment like what we saw with Caleb Wiley, where I'm going to try to do everything to disrupt the game, and even if I'm the coach, I'm going to go over a player's shoulders, grab the soccer ball to prevent him from throwing a ball in. I thought that was Bush League. I legitimately did. I'm not a fan of how Jim Curtin wants to do things. Do I understand that Philadelphia does things their way and they're very successful at it? Absolutely. I absolutely understand that is Philadelphia's way, and they're very good at it. And you get to MLS Cup finals for a reason. You're very good at what you do. I'm just not a fan of how you do it. And Rich, Rich Ransom, when he comes in here, I absolutely love Rich. And we will continue to have these discussions back and forth about how Philadelphia does things. They do tremendous things with their academy, all of the talent that's there. When you have an Aronson that is about to be moved for $4 million over to Europe, you're obviously doing something right, as your most recent example. And David, Philly had 2 yellows and 29 fouls in the final or something. I mean, let me dig it up real quick. But I mean, legitimately, for a team that is as physical as Philadelphia is, for them to do what they do on an offensive basis, it's just disappointing when you have something like that. So stats. Let's get into stats. I've clicked the stats, so let's see if we've got duels, fouls, saves. Okay, 26 fouls for Philadelphia, only 15 for LAFC. So 26 fouls, 2 yellows. But once again, that goes to Ismail Elfath, and what you don't want to do, even though you had the early yellow, you want to set a tone, but you don't want to let the cards dictate a final. You did set an early marker, but you don't want the cards to set your early tone. For Philadelphia, for a team that is as physical as they are, when they're on offense, you basically blow on them and they turn into Richie Larea. I mean, it's like, and they fall. Julian Carranza has completely and totally adapted to what Jim Curtin has asked of him there. You have tremendously talented individuals like Daniel Gazdag. No question about it. But there are other individuals that are a part of that physical nature, overtly physical, and they ride the lightning as long as they can. And I give them full credit for riding the lightning and getting right to that edge. But like I said, I'm not a fan of it. I get it. That's how they are. It's like having to prepare for the veer when you've seen spread all season long, for your college football analogy. You know they're going to foul you. You know they're going to be physical, but I think that the goalless draw that we saw with Atlanta United and Philadelphia was obviously, it was one of the best showings against Philadelphia, regardless of team, I think all season long, how you stood up to them. And that's what it's going to take. You need to stare at them. Yeah, Wiley, and it's absolutely true. It is absolutely true. Refs allow them to do it. It's on the refs. Play like this hurts the overall level of play in the league. It does. And that's the key here. Refs have to get on Philadelphia immediately and have zero patience for it. Have zero. Yeah, and this is what I anticipated. I anticipated Philadelphia chopping down Carlos Velo and Chicho Arango as much as possible, get them frustrated, goad them into cards. And that's what Philadelphia does. Like I said, I get it. I understand that's what they are and that's who they are. That's what they do. I'm not a fan of it. I get it. I'm not a fan of it. And that should speak more. You'd like for them to show their own abilities. You'd like for guys like Daniel Gazdag to be able to showcase who he is, or Michael Ua, showcase who he is. I mean, and when you have two Sequoias at the back, if not three, with Glesnes and Wagner, and we could have seen the last of Kai Wagner because he's being courted by folks overseas. That's going to be questions in the offseason. Jonathan Tannenwald had an article up after MLS Cup saying that there were three key players that could be gone after this season for Philadelphia. How do you replace that? That's the next question for Jim Curtin. If you lose those players coming up, yeah, Elliott, and when you've got Jack Elliott, who's as good as he was, you could have Elliott and Glesnes as a part of the discussion if Wagner goes away. Set pieces. One way to score against that? No. Beautiful passing is not going to get it done. You've got to do it in situations. You've absolutely got to do it situationally. And that's what LAFC was able to do. And that second half was some of the most massively chaotic stuff that I have seen in quite some time. It was fantastic television. And, if you're a TV partner and that's the way that you go out, that's what you want. You want that kind of chaos. You want that kind of greatness on your air for the last time. We'll get back into it just a little bit. Since it's getting close to the hour mark, we're past 10 o'clock Eastern time live. Time to read the promo. So let me grab the piece of paper that I didn't have in Statesboro yesterday. We'll go. Lemonize for odor-free, clean, fresh air. One place you need to go. It's the Lemonize service. Deodorizing closed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. The Lemonize has created a customized solution that eliminates all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Filter the property in. Lemonize service for Lemonize bad odors, help people rent their homes that much faster. Turnkey process makes it easy to work with realtors and property. Kind of the environment we like that these days, offering a clean way to use the odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Freeze for our favorite nasty agents we have under the sink or above the cupboard, because when we reach above it into the cupboard or below it into the sink and pull those nasty agents out and spray them in the air, the reason they're called nasty agents. Mass deal. Don't attack the problem all the way down to the molecule, like our friends at Lemonize do. Pricing very, very easy cubic meter parts per million. Come up with price affordable for you, offering a total of 24 hours or less. Any questions frequently asked or otherwise, reach out to them on the website. Before I grab my pen, full website, Lemonize.com, but do us a favor, go /Atlanta after .com, so they know what part of the world that you are reaching out to them from. They can help you attack your problems. Full homework assignment. ELIMI. And thank you, Jesse. I go to 25. People say 25. I go to 25, and it's just, I thought 25 was the main mix, but maybe it's 20. So there you go. For the end of the promo, ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta, Lemonize.com/Atlanta. That's really the only important part anyway. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. Lemonize.com, Lemonize service. Proud sponsors of everything. Thank you, SDH. And so I had that at 10. So as we continue to monitor the audio levels on this here promo read, let me know what works. Because I don't want it to be distorted. I want you to hear about a Lemonize service, because that means it's the top of the hour and we're past the halfway point of the show. So There you go. Lemonize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. Time for the slow fade and the bump out the loop button. There you go. There it is. So, all right. So it was at 25 and it was distorted. 10 was better. So once again, that's on a scale of like, I take it from 25 down to 0. So let me know. 25 was too distorted. 10 was low, but we'll figure it out. And then I'll get it to that level so you can actually hear me read a promo every single show. Back to your comments as we go into hour number 2. David, I know EPL snobs who say they won't watch MLS because the game is too slow. If you look at foul numbers in Major League Soccer compared to top European leagues, more fouls equals breaking up play. I don't think MLS are just whistle happy. I think the league allows and expects more fouling. I'd love to know the numbers on average for the officials from Pro to figure out what the average number is. And I think the average number is low 20s, low to mid 20s. So you're talking 25 fouls a match. It just so happened that when you play Philadelphia takes care of that number on its own. And it's up to the officials to sit there and say something's worthy of a card, show a card. And, like I said, I know that you don't want to set a tone with a card early on, but if it's warranted, go for it. Set that limit. Then that way Philadelphia knows that that limit is at a certain place and we can't go past that. Or they'll have somebody else pop in there and go to that limit before they figure it out. And so yeah, I think that mid-20s is your standard number, but it was 41 in MLS. No, Kevsine. So it was like 41 in MLS Cup because of what we knew we were going to get from Philadelphia, taking care of the moments themselves. But no, Kevsine, I need to know. So I need to know what the audio levels are. It's perfectly fine. You're not getting my feathers ruffled at all. David, last time you checked in 2021 with the numbers, low 20s. EPL was 13 or so, Spain 15, the Bundesliga 16. Okay. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go when it comes to fouling numbers. But pretty much, yeah, Philadelphia takes care of all those numbers yourself. Getting back into player transactions and some interesting stuff from a guy named Sepp Blatter. We'll get into that in a second. Houston, they're going to welcome in Ben Olsen. And there you've got the next week. Remember, you guys, you wanted to know, Sean, about Atlanta United news. You've got that week to make it happen. So Houston looking at the futures of Fafa Pico, Zeka, Memo Rodriguez, Darwin Quintero. Once again, remember they have until the 14th. Options picked up on Corey Baird, Ethan Bartlow. Failed U22 initiative signings, Mateo Bahamic and Tiago, 5 players who had their contract options declined. Darwin Surin is out of contract. Maybe for Heel Team 6, you bring in Darwin Surin. Dynamo have made an offer to Junqua, 20 players under their roster. Inter, Miami, CF. Not quite Inter Messi, CF yet. Once again, big question. Is the future of Alejandro Pozuelo? He's out of contract. No deal has been reached yet. Source said both sides holding talks. Nothing is close. Pizarro's future plays into the equation. On loan at Monterrey, is expected to leave and open up the DP spot for Pozuelo. Officially exercised the option on Leo Campana, as they should have. Campana expected to hit the roster as a young DP next season after being a U22 initiative player while on loan from Wolves. Club also picked up options on Ariel Lassiter, Bryce Duke, Drake Callender, and Gonzalo Higuain. So his announced his retirement. So technically, they declined the striker's contract option along with George Acosta. Out of contract, Jovan Jones, Pozuelo, Breck Shea, and Indiana Vasilev. So those are the 2 new pieces of news when it comes to teams and franchises and such. Burn. Have you seen some of the college games? I watched a Marshall against somebody game, women's. 45 fouls called and 6 yellows. Could have been a lot more called too. Yeah, American soccer in a nutshell. I've been watching some of the postseason matchups in the Fun Belt. I was watching that. I was watching a little bit of the SEC. And yeah, when you get these fouls called, it's like, whistle blows, momentum stops. Whistle blows, momentum stops. Whistle blows, momentum stops. And yeah, it's like you want the game to breathe and you want the game to work its way forward. But at the same time, it's like, yo, dog, I get it. But once again, you're looking at officials and the quality of said officials sometimes. And sometimes you're going to get officials that will have 45 whistles in a match. And then you'll have some that'll have like 15 or 20. So that's just the random nature of how it goes. Checking in with everything else this morning, Garrett Southgate is on the verge of trying to figure out who he wants to have for his squad. Remember, that's coming up in short order. Liverpool owners Fenway Sports Group. Once again, we talked about it yesterday when that news broke before the show started. Insiders believe that their worth could be as much as $5 billion US. And the Fenway Sports Group is going to have to they're going to have to jump on that because of how things are in the world right now with currency. So if they can get $5 billion, I'm sure that they will try and figure out how to get it to $5 billion if that is in fact what they want to do. Just because it's on the market doesn't mean it's for sale. So Burns said it was Marshall and App State on Halloween. There's irony. 48 fouls and 5 yellows. And once again, this is courtesy of the 4-letter paper, so take it at your own risk. The failure of the European Super League and Todd Bowley's multi-billion-dollar purchase of Chelsea are thought to be big factors in Fenway Sports Group's decision to put Liverpool up for sale. The Ricketts family, sole owners of the Chicago Cubs, have expressed interest in buying Liverpool from FSG, and it got Red Sox fans excited. So that means that Bostonians hope the deal would free up resources to help out the Red Sox. Makes sense. But once again, all this is from the 4-letter newspaper, so information at your own risk. Eden Hazard's time at Real Madrid looks to be coming to an end, according to reports in Spain. Daily Mirror, John Henry. Let's see. They say, okay, so Daily Mirror is saying £4 billion. So we'll see what happens there. Chelsea hoping to take advantage of complications in AC Milan's talks with Rafael Leao as they eye a move for the Portuguese forward. Xavi has labeled Barcelona's Europa League clash with Manchester United the worst possible draw. Not wrong. Skipping the 3-letter paper, the Times. Premier League clubs want the rules on signing foreign players to be relaxed, but are facing a battle with the FA, which fears doing so would have a negative impact on the England team. Okay. Athletic, a couple of pieces. Manchester City secured the services of highly regarded Brentford analyst Jack Wilson in a role focusing on set pieces. United have experienced a huge amount of change in recent times, set to continue when Director of Football Operations Alan Dawson makes an expected departure from Old Trafford. And one of the first decisions facing Julian Lopetegui as Wolves' new head coach surrounds the immediate future of Fabio Silva. Daily Express. Liverpool said to be very optimistic about signing Jude Bellingham from Borussia Dortmund in the summer transfer window. That one's going to be fun. CONMEBOL, according to The Independent, echoed FIFA's messaging of focusing on the football at the World Cup in Qatar, saying the time has come for disagreements to take a back seat with the tournament kicking off in 2 weeks. Good luck on that one. Alexander Zinchenko wants to kill the stereotype, in quotation marks, of Arsenal being a team that should only be competing for a place in the Premier League top 4 as their title challenge continues. Daily Record. Rangers fans will get the chance to grill the Ibrox board after the date for the annual shareholder meeting was confirmed for next month. Martin Boyle flying out to Qatar in a bid to make Australia's World Cup camp. Leeds looking to extend Stuart McKinstry's deal. Daily Telegraph has news as well. So let's get into the gossip part of the equation this morning and see what is going on there. Let's see. Liverpool will sign Jude Bellingham from Dortmund for £87 million as a parting gift before their sale of the club. That's according to Marca. Chelsea is not one of the sides that he wants to join, meaning Bellingham. FSG is going to make a significant profit on their investment because I believe at the time that it was only under $400 million. Liverpool's valuation is less than the price Roman Abramovich sold Chelsea for earlier this year. That's from the Star. British billionaire Sir Jim Ratcliffe. We'll keep an eye on him as one who could purchase Liverpool. Looks like, according to the 4-letter paper, once again, take the information as you wish. Luton Town boss Nathan Jones set to become the next new manager of Southampton after they sacked Ralph Hasenhüttl back on Monday. We talked about that. Southampton admirers of Thomas Frank at Brentford also discussed River Plate manager Marcelo Gallardo from the Guardian. Gajardo would be an interesting one. That's just my own personal perspective. More than half the Premier League had representatives watching Ajax and PSV Eindhoven because of Cody Gakpo. Let's see. Arsenal and Tottenham considering a move for Lille striker Jonathan David. Premier League leaders Arsenal prepared to spend in the January transfer window to maintain their challenge. Manchester United want to sign Bayern Munich and Cameroon forward Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting. But the 33-year-old wants to stay in the Bundesliga. Brentford, and we mentioned Jack Wilson. Inter Milan chief exec Giuseppe Marotta said that the club is planning to meet with the agent of Milan Skriniar to discuss a contract extension with the 27-year-old's current deal running out next summer. That's courtesy of our friends at Calcio Mercato. Juve wants to extend the deal of Adrian Rabiot, but fear the 27-year-old may be getting better offers from Premier League clubs. AC Milan have prepared a contract extension for Olivier Giroud. Now, it's likely to be signed after the 2022 World Cup. So that's your gossip, rumor, and innuendo this morning. CONCACAF draw. This was yesterday. Round of 16 has been figured out. Here's your matchups. And remember, this is new CCL format awaiting in 24, expanding from 16 to 27. So you've got Austin FC going up against Violette from Haiti. LAFC gets Alajuelense. Orlando City gets Tigres. Welcome to CONCACAF Champions League. Philadelphia Union get Alianza. Vancouver gets Real España. So breakdown of who they end up with. That's the 5 teams that are in Major League Soccer. Let me get the other 3 matchups that were laid out yesterday, and we'll go into the scheduling. All right. So Austin Violette, León and Tauro from Panama, Orlando City Tigres, Pachuca Motagua, Whitecaps and Real España from Honduras, LAFC Alajuelense, Atlas Olympia, Philadelphia Union, and Alianza. So those are your 8 matchups. Round of 16 is March 7 through 9 and 14 through 16. Then you get into the quarters in April. Later in April's the semis. The finals, May 31st, the first leg, and June 4, it is the second leg. So that's your rundown of all of those. But Orlando City, congratulations. You've made it to CONCACAF Champions League. You get Tigres. So more power to you. Enjoy your experience there in CONCACAF Champions League as we go forward. Looking at what is going on today, let's start with what's going on the telly. So if you're interested in catching up, but remember, biggest thing today, go vote. Vote. VOTE, vote. As soon as the show is over, I'm probably going to go stand in line and vote myself. But according to the boss, our polling station at 7 o'clock this morning had a line down the hall. She was in at like 7:08. Line down the hall to get in the door. Good. Everybody go vote. Today, Bundesliga, 2:30 on ESPN2, Bayern Munich, Werder Bremen. La Liga's on at 1 and 3. ESPN Plus has more Bundesliga, 4 more matches that are there. Bundesliga B's on at 12:30. Carabao Cup is probably the biggest thing today. So the Gummy Bear Cup is off and running with some matchups involving Premier League teams and each other. Championship is right before 4 o'clock, Watford and Reading. La Liga Santander has 3 matches, 12:50, 1:50, 3:20. Paramount Plus is busy with the Brasileiro and Serie A, 2 matches at 12:30 and 1 at 2:45. Well, KFC, let me get this show over, and then I will go get in line. I absolutely will. Now, I absolutely will get in line. And but no, it's one of the big things is, and I'm, and full disclosure, I was a political science major in college. And my grandfather, when I told him that I was going to be a political science major, he's like, "Oh, you're going to go be a lawyer." And I'm like, "No." He's like, what are you going to do?" And this is a gentleman who, when he was, growing up, he was invasion of North Africa, Battle of Britain, OSS. He was in the wind tunnels in Tullahoma, Tennessee at the Arnold Engineering Development Center. He wanted to go to Korea to serve his country, but he was deemed to be too old. He was in his mid-40s at the time, wanted to go to Vietnam, but obviously he was too old then as well. But when I told my grandfather, who was the youngest ever at the time to achieve the rank of bird colonel, but because when he was in the Army Air Corps, because he was never one to mince words and always told people what he thought of them, he stayed the youngest ever to be the rank of bird colonel at the time. So when I told him that I wanted to do this for a living, you know how your relatives, your older relatives will sit there and they'll go, "Oh, you're crazy as hell." They'll sit there and they'll take their hand and they'll kind of wave it at you. My grandfather, once again, God rest his soul, his hand was as far back as it could go. I mean, it was as far back as it could go, and he almost bent over backwards just to sit there and go, "Ah, you're crazy as hell." When he brought his right arm all the way from the backyard and outside the house to tell me I was crazy as hell, that's what I got from my grandfather. But with a degree in political science, I am also that guy that will sit there and look at every referendum. I will look at the sample ballot. I will break the sample ballot down piece by piece, element by element. I will research the candidates. And literally, I mean, the boss and I will sit in the kitchen and we will sit there and look at the sample ballot. We will break it all down. We'll sit there and it's like, all right, this guy, this person. We know everything about the candidates and what they stand for. Go to their websites, go through all of the small talk, through the sound bites, all of the cliches, which really need to give $1 into a jar every time that they put one out. And no, I fully researched. This house is fully researched before we wander to our polling station. So that has occurred. And once the show is over, and we also have the Rowdy Dog at the groomers for the first time, and it has been a traumatic experience. We have that update as well. So, yes. And so, yeah, VOTE. But yeah, so once we get the Rowdy Dog back from the groomer for his first time at the groomer in this household, and like I said, it was very traumatic. And yeah, when trust me, and when I say this, my polling station literally is next door. So it's there, and trust me, I'm voting today. So yes, vote, because if you don't, after the polls close at 7:00 and you have not voted, you do not get the privilege of complaining about things if you disagree with what is going on. So vote, VOTE, vote. Capital letters, neon flashing, vote today. Yes. So, like I said, that's how things are in this house. So we've gotten into what's going on TV. Sorry for the sidebar, because like I said, I'm literally on this show. It is literally squirrel for me sometimes. It's like, oh, we'll go here. But thanks to all of y'all for hanging out this morning. Juice boxes, 12:30 Serie A. Napoli a big favorite as Empoli visits Udinese, and even money plus 100 as they go to Spezia. Those are at 12:30. Lower divisions in all of Europe, working your way through the early part of the afternoon. We've got action going on in the championship in England at 2:45. A lot of matches there. A couple of home favorites. Most of the favorites are the home teams there. Gummy Bear Cup, interesting stuff. Everton is at Bournemouth. Everton is a favorite, and that is the only one of the 2:45 kicks in the Gummy Bear Cup that involves Premier League on Premier League. The other games are either crossovers. Leicester's hosting Newport City, big favorite. Brentford's hosting Gillingham, big favorite. League Two is going on. Lower divisions continue to go on. Big day here in the midweek for the lower divisions in England. And no, I don't have the voice to do it the way that Jason does. 2:45, AC Milan, obviously a big favorite at a minus 175 as they go to Cremonese. Championship in Scotland, the 3:00 game we mentioned in the championship, Watford and Reading. Sorry, Jess, Watford's a minus 116. Jessica Charman, our resident Reading person. And then the schedule, tonight, pretty light. In South America, you've got Colombia, Brazil, Copa Ecuador, Serie A in Brazil, Sao Paulo in Internacional. Sao Paulo's a favorite at -101. Colombia in the Primera A. America de Cali is a favorite at home, going up against Independiente Medellin, who is a +216. And if you are interested in catching the South American games, if they're not on Paramount Plus, you can always subscribe to Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. And you can get Teisei, Goal TV, a lot of the live stuff. I've gotten hooked. I blame Jason. So that's where that rolls. So let's see if there's anything else on the board this morning, anything else that you guys want to talk about. Later today, championship. So the USL Championship stuff will hit the weekly grid as it always does. And you've also got the USL League One wrap-up show. That'll be up later this afternoon. Once again, you'll hear the highlights of the match, Josh Eastern, Devin Kerr, Marion Crowder. And once again, thanks to Marion for hopping on the show yesterday to break things down from her perspective. You'll hear from Tormenta head coach Ian Cameron. You'll hear from Jamil Roberts. You'll hear from Keziah Sterling. And you'll hear from Pablo Jara. Great stuff from Pablo Jara as well, to just get his perspective on being there from absolute zero and seeing the team get a championship. It is officially official. Ben Olsen has been named the new Houston Dynamo coach. So, sixth manager in Dynamo history, best known for his stint at DC United from 2010 to 2020, coach of the year 2014, led the club to a 2013 Open Cup win. Statement came out from Ted Siegel, making it officially official. And so there you go with Ben Olsen. Conducted their second coaching search with Ted Siegel as owner, with Paulo Nagamura being sent packing about a month before the 2022 season ended, as they were last place in the West. And when the move was announced, finished 13th in the West in 2022. Siegel took over as manager. Remember, club legend Pat Onstad was general manager. They brought in Ache, Hector Herrera, Sebastian Ferreira as DPs. And you've got the roster decisions that we discussed earlier on in the show that are there for Houston Dynamo, and what happens with them. But yeah, Ben Olsen officially official now as the new head coach of the Houston Dynamo. Columbus Crew's Milos Degenek got great news. Australia announced their 26-man roster this morning. Milos Degenek is on it for head coach Graham Arnold. They got Group D. Australia gets France, Tunisia, Denmark. 28 appearances, 24 starts for the Crew during the 2022 season, arriving last January as a free agent after playing at Red Star Belgrade. Born in Croatia, 1 goal, 38 appearances with Australia. He was used as he was an unused sub when they qualified for Qatar by winning the Interconfederational Playoff over Peru on PKs. So the squad announcement with Degenek is a part of it, checking to see if there are any other familiar faces that are attached. Aaron Moy is there. Andrew Redmayne is in net. Your captain is Matthew Ryan in net. So there you go with the Socceroos. Milos Degenek from Columbus, who has been attached to his roster in Australia. So very, very cool stuff there. Remember, when the roster is announced for the U.S. the next day, like I said, I'll have our people talk to Bart Keeler's folks. And the Colonel brought up this morning that some folks are saying that Tim Ream is going to be a part of the 26-man roster. So apparently players are already being told that they are either a part or they're not a part of what's going on, because there's supposed to be the big announcement in New York City. Bright lights, probably fireworks, fire department boats with the big sprays, those kinds of things. So that way travel plans can be made. So if you've got FlightAware or any software or anything like that might have any kind of tracking device that can send you information as to who is heading to New York for all these kinds of discussions, keep an eye on that. So that will be what we notice over the next little while. One of the things that I wanted to, this is what I wanted to get into here. You remember a guy named Sepp Blatter, right? Sepp Blatter talked to the Swiss newspaper Tages Anzeiger, and I hope I pronounced that somewhere close. Tim Ream over Aaron Long. That's what it's looking like for David, but we'll see. Like I said, whoever makes it to New York City, then we'll know our final answers unless the entire thing leaks out early, which wouldn't surprise me. Sepp Blatter admitted to Swiss newspaper Tages Anzeiger that awarding the World Cup hosting duties to Qatar was a mistake. Blatter's 17-year reign as FIFA chief ended in 2015. Swiss court cleared Blatter and former UEFA president Michel Platini of the fraudulent payment of a suspected fraudulent payment back in July. Prosecutors have appealed. U.S. prosecutors alleged in 2020 bribes were involved in the voting for hosting rights for the 2022 World Cup. In the years since Qatar's victory, 16 of the 22 executive members present for the vote have been implicated in or been investigated for corruption or other bad practices, according to The Guardian's Barney Ronay. Blatter, quote, "It is too small of a country. Football and the World Cup are too big for it," Blatter told Edgar Schuler and Thomas Nelworth of Anzeiger as the interview was translated by BBC Sport. Since then, Blatter added, social considerations and human rights are taken into account, end quote. Logistical difficulties in staging a tournament in such a small country, Qatar is smaller than Connecticut, have since been outweighed by human rights issues in the Gulf state. And recommended viewing is the Jeremy Schaap ESPN E60. That should be out online, and that should be requested/required viewing for today going forward from their investigations. Let's see. Amnesty International understands thousands of migrant workers have died while building infrastructure. Human Rights Watch recently documented incidents, members of the LGBTQ plus community being arbitrarily detained and then beaten by Qatari security forces. Current FIFA president Gianni Infantino has recently come under fire for the defense of Qatar. Suggested in October that the nation was a victim of prejudice while it faces criticism over its human rights record, then urged the 32 teams to focus on football. We got into that, and we mentioned that CONMEBOL hopped onto that bandwagon this morning. Amnesty's head of economic and social justice, Steve Coburn, said in response, if Gianni Infantino wants the world to focus on the football, there's a simple solution. FIFA could finally start tackling the serious human rights issues rather than brushing them under the carpet. So a word from Sepp Blatter from Swiss newspapers translated by the BBC. So he's lobbying from the sideline. So really, what else is new? Trying to see if there's anything else going on before we go on your Tuesday. Once again, like I said, I'm just scanning right now. Injury updates. Obviously, Canada was dealt the injury scare with Alphonso Davies. It looks like he's just out for the 2 matches leading up to the World Cup. So he should be okay. Matarrita, Oviedo, and Chacon were named in the Costa Rican squad yesterday. So Brian Oviedo from RSL, Ronald Matarrita from FC Cincinnati, Daniel Chacon from Colorado Rapids 2 were included in the 26-man roster for the tournament. They'll compete in Group E with Spain, Japan, and Germany. Luis Fernando Suarez made the announcement 2 days after Japan became the first country to reveal their World Cup squad. So that's your information there. Costa Rica squad with some big names, obviously Keylor Navas in net, Francisco Calvo, who's now at Konyaspor, Kendall Waston, who's at Saprissa. Just trying to go through familiar names with you here. Trying to see if there's anybody. Brian Ruiz from Alajuelense, our friends at Alajuelense, we know them. Joel Campbell, who's at León. Johan Venegas, who's at Alajuelense. And you'll notice, obviously, with the Costa Rican squad, there's going to be a lot of Herediano, Alajuelense, a lot of domestic league stuff involving those players, but 3 players from Major League Soccer ties, now part of Costa Rica's 26-man roster. Interesting piece of news out of FC Cincinnati. Steven Jimenez is now the youngest signing in club history. Cincinnati got Jimenez from DC. DC is going to get up to $500,000 in conditional GAM, and FC Cincinnati signed midfielder Steven Jimenez as a homegrown player. 15 years old, youngest player in FCC history, joins through the 25 MLS season, options for 26 and 27. They could be sending all of that allocation money to DC, guaranteed $50,000 in 2022. Up to $200,000 in conditional GAM if he signs a second MLS contract with FC Cincinnati, and an additional $300,000 if certain performance-based incentives are met. DC gets a percentage of a sell-on if he's traded within MLS, or a percentage of GAM should Jimenez be traded within MLS, or a percentage of any sell-on amount if he's sold on outside of Major League Soccer, which makes sense. Chris Albright, quote, Stevens developed quickly in his time with our academy. Tremendous desire to be a professional, mature beyond his years and his understanding of the game. Qualities as a midfielder, great fit of how we like to play. Delighted to sign him. So 3 sentences playing up Steven Jimenez. So once again, from Maryland, joined FC Cincinnati's academy in 2019. Now plays for their U17s. Joined them for first team preseason, appearing in friendlies against USF and Philadelphia Union. So we'll keep an eye on that. St. Louis City, in addition to getting Jared Stroud yesterday, they also got MLS Next Pro star Aziel Jackson from Minnesota United. Both teams lit up their emails after this one. Jackson was picked up in a trade for $150,000 in GAM. Minnesota could also get an additional $75,000 in conditional GAM should certain performance metrics be met. And Minnesota United gets 20% of the transfer fee if Jackson is sold outside of MLS. Joins the 2023 expansion outfit after a standout season for MLS for their next pro side, MNUFC2. Say that 10 times fast. Named to the league's best 11. 10 goals, 7 assists, 23 matches, all team leading numbers. Led with 70 scoring chances created. Paragraph from Lutz Pfannenstiel. After that, originally joined Minnesota United April 2021. Homegrown rights acquired and traded with Red Bulls. Started his career with the Red Bull Youth. That. Okay. Sorry. So, just wrapping up the conversation about Jackson. So, wrapping up the conversation about the pickups for St. Louis and the news that are there with them and their selections. So very, very busy midfield right now for St. Louis City. And 11 pieces signed to the first team. Jackson joins the midfield group. International pieces, Isak Jensen, Tomas Ostrak, Edward Lewin. And you've got Sebastian Lletget signing a long-term deal with FC Dallas. That happened. New 3-year deal through 2025, option year of 2026. Move was completed using TAM. The 30-year-old joined Dallas last August in a trade with the Revs. That followed the trade from the Galaxy. And now he's got a long-term home from FC Dallas. Once again, you get the all positive quotes from both sides. 3 goals, 10 assists, 29 games during the 2022 season. And you've got Areola, Jesus Ferreira, Paxton Pomacall, Sebastian Lletget, part of the long-term core for Nico Estevez, number 3 seed in the West. So that's where we are with all of that. I think that'll do it. I don't want to mess up the internet gods, or I don't want to anger them any more than I already have this morning. So once again, thanks to all of you guys for hanging out as much as you have. And we will be back at it tomorrow with a Wall Pass Wednesday. Obviously, there'll probably be a lot of news that's gone on. There'll be a lot of stuff to talk about. And we will continue to talk about it as long as we don't anger the internet gods. So for everybody here, and once again, thanks to all of you guys that get to come and hang out with us on a daily basis and hang out and sit there and want to hang out and share your ideas on all the conversations that we have every single day. So very, very cool stuff across the board that we do, and we couldn't do it without you guys. So for everybody here at SDH, for me, for Jarrett, for Jason, and for Nick, I'm just John. Play it safe, everybody. Mucha platial, and since it is the end of the show, it means I get to do this. We'll catch up with you tomorrow.